what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they want to do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shit.
How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Guys, great discussion we're going to have today. We're going to talk about employers' responsibility in dealing with their disgruntled employees. Notice the verbiage there, the employer's responsibility. So it's not what to do with a disgruntled employee. It's our responsibility towards a disgruntled employee. Slightly different perspective. And I think it's going to be a great dialogue. Again, as always, we have no idea where it's going to go. We're going to discover it along the way. And who do I usually take with me on these journeys to nowhere? Connie Alleyne.
We are always on a journey somewhere. We are always discovering new things. So, hi everybody, Connie Alleyne here. I am the founder and president of the Civilian Corrections Academy, the podcast host of The Fly Behind the Wall, and the author of The Cage Was Her Cocoon. Like I said, I think we're gonna go somewhere. I mean, who knows? That's kind of just the joy of these exchanges anyway, that we never know where it's gonna go. So we'll see.
But I think that's what makes it a good thing, guys. We try to cover as many perspectives as we can. And guys, before earlier today, I actually posted a poll on my community board. The question is, inmate staff manipulation is more successful when A, male inmate to male staff, B, female inmate to female staff, C, male staff to female inmate, D, female staff to male inmate. We're actually going to cover this. This dialogue is actually going to be very fun. We're looking forward to it. I'm waiting for, I believe it's going to be me, Connie, and Soto. But I just want to let everybody know that we just put it up. So we have 43 votes so far. So it will get more. But right now, 44%, so that's the highest so far, is saying, well, Connie, what's your guess? 44% is saying what?
Female to male.
Wait, female to male, what, inmate staff? Which one?
Female inmate, male staff.
44%. Good job. And Connie, what's the 7%, which is the lowest, is?
Female to female.
Yeah. And I don't have to figure out. We can just automatically assume one's in
Yeah.
it. So we're going to have this discussion. I think it's going to be pretty interesting because just having this dialogue today with a good friend of mine, it really had me open up my mind. And definitely, guys, it's crazy because the stuff that we talk about still actually holds relevance to the book here. No matter what we discover, it seems to be some way that we're able to put it into this book. But it's going to be a very interesting discussion. We don't know what each person's going to say, so we kind of keep the foundation simple, plain, unique. So I'm very curious to see where that dialogue is going to go. Now, guys, we come back from our sponsors. We are going to be talking about disgruntled employees, the employer's responsibility for disgruntled employees. Now, guys, if you haven't, the show Tier Talks for you, brave men and women that work in corrections, so please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. Again, we'll go to our sponsors. We come back. Let's talk about disgruntled employees. Stand by.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it. It's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
All right, and we are back. Connie, I think this is a great topic. I just want to, so the topic, I want to make sure we get this clear out to the audience. So the topic is our responsibility towards disgruntled employees as opposed to what to do with disgruntled employees. So what's the difference?
So I think the what to do is our response to the behavior or actions of the disgruntled employees. Like, how do we nip it in the bud? How do we address it? I think our responsibility to those employees is, what are we required to do in order to support those employees? And I don't mean support necessarily like encouraging them, but support them to sort of get out of that disgruntled space. So I know we're going to talk further about it, but I won't go into my thoughts about the two, but that's to answer that question.
Yeah, I think the responsibility really is for the benefit of that disgruntled employee. However, exhausted we try, because at one point there may be, where you can't do anything else. You've tried, and at this point it is what it is. But I do like the way the question's posed, because it does in the question say that there's going to be an effort. Just by saying that responsibility, that management cannot ignore it, they have to make an effort. Then ultimately, if you just can't settle it, then you may have to do something where the employee may not be a good fit. Now, the thing about corrections, guys, is that, well, you can't leave a disgruntled employee alone in corrections. I know, like in other professions, when you have a disgruntled employee, what do? We avoid the employee. We get away from them, and we just don't want to be bothered by them. But we can obviously see why that can't be done in corrections, right? Because if you avoid a disgruntled employee in corrections, and that person puts themselves on an island, because technically that's what they're doing. So I want everybody to know that when you have that disgruntled employee, yes, we're going to try to do what we can, but really that person has to look inwards and start changing who they are. And one of the reasons why is because you're putting yourself on an island. And when you start pushing your peers away, who's going to come in? The inmates. So Connie, I mean, that's a perspective where a disgruntled employee actually is a risk.
Yeah, I mean, so I think there's a lot of ways to look at it. Our reality is that not everybody's going to be happy at work, right? But we can't just leave them off to their own devices, right? Because essentially we know that we all want to belong, and that belonging shouldn't be, I belong because the inmates receive me, they accept me, like these are my people, right? Because when you now identify that you belong to this group, you start doing things that could jeopardize everybody, right? Because now you are sort of working in that space of belonging to the inmates. And so what do you have to do in order to belong to that group, right? You have to begin to conduct yourself sort of the way they do, or you end up starting to do favors for this group because these are my people. And I think, from a management perspective, leaving them to their own devices also allows them to kind of spread their good words to other people, right? Which we don't necessarily want that to be the case, right? Especially like someone who's new to the job. You come new to the job, and the first thing you encounter is this person that hates everything about corrections, and all of the management team and all of everybody, and everybody sucks. Get out while you can. Like, that is not what you necessarily want your new folks to be exposed to. Now, I do believe that there is a benefit of having sort of, I don't want to say the naysayers or the disgruntled folks, but they're disgruntled for a reason, right? And so sometimes, management may be disconnected from why this person is so disgruntled, and that person not giving up the battle, right? Like this thing that they're holding on to, perhaps they are going to come across somebody who can actually give them some insight or help them through that process. Or maybe it's a new manager who doesn't even know why they're disgruntled and didn't know that there was something we could do to help that person. And many times that disgruntled person also has things that they're saying that others want to say, but don't have the courage to say it. The flip side to that, though, is that because you're disgruntled, people probably discount what you're saying. Like, it's just kind of, whatever, he's always complaining about something. It doesn't mean that there's no merit in what they're disgruntled about. So I think we got to just be mindful. I guess that's the way to see it, of when someone is disgruntled, kind of hear them out to understand where they're coming from and try to understand their position, but also not to just leave them off to their own devices because they can get sucked up into the environment.
Yeah, and guys, because corrections is evolving, we're dealing with a lot of movement, I guess. some things have to happen and some things maybe there's some negotiation or some compromises. But like Connie said, if you're constantly just that person in the back, constantly complaining and complaining and complaining without really making any effort to move things forward, then you're right. Even when you have a valid complaint, it's just going to get mixed in with the blah, blah, blah of the other complaints, because now you're really just someone that stops movement. And I like what you're saying about that, Connie, because if you are that person that constantly complains, then even if you want to say something that is meant to move forward, no one's going to see that in your complaint. Because I've actually known people that are, they're part of the team. They want things to move forward. And even when they make a complaint, you could see that the complaint is an effort to move things forward. It's just there's something going on, whereas opposed to the disgruntled person is just going to pretty much be stuck in that one spot. And it's more about just keeping things in the back, not moving at all. And one of the things that you also mentioned that I thought was spot on is that how many managers, because remember, the key to this question was responsibility. So that to me was, okay, we just had a shift in perspective here, because I didn't pick up that word at first. So when I was doing the text, the first couple of things I was saying, well, is you have to do this, 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 and this. I was like, well, wait a second. It's not about the act right now. It's about the responsibility. So now the first thing I'm thinking about, because what Connie said was understanding why. And I wonder if not even I wonder, what you should do at first as a manager, as a supervisor, as a leader, is when you have that disgruntled employee, maybe you should ask yourself, is there anything that you have done wrong? Or is there anything that you could be doing better? And would you agree with that, Connie?
Absolutely. I mean, this disgruntled employees aren't disgruntled for no reason, right? And yes, something could have happened way back when. All administration is different. It may have no relevance to the now, right? But then there are times where there is relevance to the now, and no one's taken the time to hear the person out, right? As management turns over, that employee is still there. They don't see no difference in the new management, and they're still not listening to me, right? And so, of course, I think that's where the frustration comes in, and they become more disgruntled over time, because what they're saying is valid, but unfortunately, no one's hearing them out.
Yeah, and guys, you also have to realize, I like, again, just feeding off what Connie said, hearing someone out also kind of plays into their value. So, I mean, there are going to be a lot of times where you're going to have to say no as manager, because it happens. But then you have to realize that each no has an impact. I mean, we may get conditioned to saying no, but each no has an impact. So for the person that's delivering that no, you have to be careful on how you deliver that no all the time. Does the no still encourage someone to come up again if they have another concern? Or does the no just kind of stop them? So like if you have a manager that's able to deliver the no's, but still show that there's value in what you provided, then that will encourage people to say, okay, I get that, and then not hesitate to bring something up again. But if you get that manager that doesn't even let you say anything and just says, nope, nope, nope. Well, yeah, but look what you're doing now. If that person doesn't get to complete their sentence or their thought, you're telling them that you don't have value for me. So now you have an employee that one of the reasons for this employee becoming disgruntled is they don't have value. They don't feel that they're valued. So again, the approach, the delivery of the no, the no doesn't have to be a no that stops growth. There's still a way in the finesse that you could do a no. It's because obviously we're going to have to give out no's, but that still encourage the fact that, but we could still do something, just maybe just not for this case. But the delivery of the no, Connie, I mean, you do have a lot of managers that just think, I'll just keep on saying no, and not realizing that you've said 20 no's in the last month, and each one has had a more powerful impact than the last.
Yeah, because I think what it is too is that sometimes I think because we're in this hierarchy, we take for granted that just because you have said no, someone questioning the no doesn't necessarily mean they're questioning your authority. Like, I think we have to be clear about that. Questioning the no usually is because people are trying to gain an understanding, right? And I feel like some people take the question of a no as disrespectful or as, some way of questioning the authority.
As a challenge.
Right. And so when they're doing that, I feel like you as the manager who's saying no is missing out on an opportunity to help broaden your employees' perspective, right? So like I'm saying no because of XYZ. They may not know all of these bigger picture issues that are out there or the impact of this thing on that no, right? Like, so if I say no to I don't know, I'm thinking about, we've said no to a doctor before who wanted to write a medical note stating that a woman couldn't be handcuffed, right? And so this was a big deal. The doctor could not understand why this was such a big deal, right? The inmate was in transport. You cannot transport the inmate without the handcuffs. The inmate was pregnant. The doctor thought if I wrote a doctor's note, I'm like, this is not like you're in school. Let me write a doctor's note and like, it's okay for you to not be handcuffed. I was like, safety and security still in play, pregnant or not. So the no to the doctor was like, I'm the doctor though, right? Like if I say this is a contraindicator from a medical perspective, I'm not going to remove my no from the doctor's note that was going with the inmate to wherever appointment they were going to. But the doctor didn't understand the directive on transport. The doctor didn't understand the safety and security concern. So if in fact we just left it as no because it was a doctor order, or we just ignored the doctor's order and did it anyway, there would be no context for the officers or for the doctor in that situation. And so sometimes it's a matter of let's come together real quick so that we're all on the same page, right? Doctor needs to understand why we're not going to support you writing a doctor's note to say no handcuffs. And the officer needs to understand why the doctor felt the need to write the doctor's note to begin with. And I feel like those are the kind of things that happen. Now, this doctor could have been like, I'm just going to keep writing these notes and like, we're going to continue to have these issues. Or the officer could have been like, I'm going to just do what I need to do because that's what I'm supposed to do, right? But either way, the no's aren't just enough. And if I go now to my doc and say, hey, listen, you got to pull that doctor's note, and the doctor's asking me why, I'm going to explain, here's why you need to pull it. Despite whatever the medical concern you have, if there is no contraindication for that inmate being handcuffed, we cannot just write a doctor's note. And so I bring that up just to say, like, sometimes we need to have the dialogue so that staff understands why we're saying no, as opposed to one no after another no after another no. And each no, I think, is more damaging. Each no shuts down the lines of communication, because at some point, I'm gonna be like, all right, well, I'm just not even gonna go to this person, right? And now, not only are you not in the loop, you don't even have the ability to say no because you don't know it's happening. It's happening behind your back. So I think we just got to be careful about the no's and the impact that those no's have on the employees, not just the disgruntled ones.
Yeah, I agree. And guys, again, we're staff, so it's okay to give us a no and then kind of give us an understanding of why the no exists, because we're going to use that to justify, as to, well, should we continue asking for these things, or, should we just stop because, we just keep on getting no's? Because again, no's without any type of understanding, we could just wind up looking at as we're being defeated. So eventually I'm just tired of getting pounded on. And believe it or not, guys, the understanding of it all will help us figure out which ones are really disgruntled with no hope of ever moving forward, or the ones that do want to move forward by their interpretation of that understanding and why it's a no. So a disgruntled employee, when you give them the justification, they may spin right towards the negative anyway, whether it's an attack on the person delivering the no or an attack on the system. But if you get someone that, maybe a little bit more optimistic because they do get an understanding of the higher level functions, then they'll be able to spin the no with the justification or understanding of something positive that will motivate them to keep going. Maybe ask again and just try to be, try to have that value, because that's the concern, guys. The no without the understanding kind of starts taking the value away from the employee and what they feel they're able to contribute. That I want people to know that. So that understanding is paramount to keep that value. you know, because again, it's that understanding that's going to motivate the staff member to go ahead and continue on. Now, guys, I will say one thing. There's other, because remember, it's about being responsible. The work that we give, you know, we work in a system right now where the work can be very tedious, very overwhelming, and probably minimal reward. Because at the end of the day, you know, you're doing tedious work that in your mind has no value because no one's ever, you know, kind of told you the reason why that work is needed. You know, now you got this employee who's just overwhelmed with work, you know. And here's the other thing, guys, when you're constantly overwhelming somebody with work, they never really know when their day's going to end, you know, because I'm overwhelmed with what you gave me in the past. I'm overwhelmed with what you got going on for me now. And then there's going to be the surprise that something else is going to change. And then you're going to overwhelm me with something new. So even if I get caught up into a routine and I start moving forward, at any moment, I get work for the sake of work. Because when you don't give someone an understanding of why that work is needed, it becomes work for the sake of work. And to be honest with you guys, it's no different than achievement for the sake of achievement. It doesn't mean nothing unless there's value at the other end. And really the value going towards the person committing to that work so they know that that work serves a purpose. So again, Connie, I'm sure you've been through it where you're just getting overwhelmed with tedious amounts of work. And it's like people are giving it to you without any care. They just, you know, because I have to get it done. And then you happen to be that person that does it. And one last thing, guys, the people that usually get overwhelmed with work are the ones that are the most capable. Now you get these future stars who could really be something for us, but because they become really good at what they do, and then we become reliant on them, and all we do is see them as an object or a number, we start overwhelming them with work without ever asking them, are you okay? Is everything all right? Do you understand why we're doing this? And then in the end, all they see is, you know what? I'm just done. Like, I'm done. So now what did you just do? You took an employee who was a shining star and literally, you know, because you see him as an object, because you're just throwing work their way, you killed the light. I mean, Connie, does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate, right? Like, we have those people who just work. They work, and they don't, you know, they don't complain. Their complaints are minimal. And I think sometimes just the busyness of work, you know, we lose sight of the fact that, like, this is a person that we're continuing to give more work to, whether we think it's their responsibility or not, whether they're doing us a favor, whether it's whatever we think about it. You know, I think we can't think enough about the fact that these are still people, right? And, you know, if there's some sort of pressing issue that is the reason why, like, you know, sometimes it's okay to say, you know what, just acknowledge, right? I know I'm giving you a lot. This is what we got going on right now. And I think it doesn't take away from your title to explain yourself, you know, and it's like, I'm just hoping that people feel comfortable and know that, like, that's how you get not only just the respect of the staff, but you get them to understand where you're coming from, right? Like, I'm not going to just come and dump on you at any old time. If I come and I'm giving you tons of stuff, it's because there's something else going on. And it's okay. And even if you have to say, you know, what's happening is privileged, but, right? Like, because I think now it's just you taking the moment to acknowledge that this is going to create some sort of burden on the staff. You know, it's on top of their everyday work, which is already stressful. You know, it is in addition to all the other stuff that they've got sitting, waiting for them to kind of take care of. So, like, you know, I know we started talking about, like, disgruntled employees and sort of our responsibility to them and such, but I also feel like, you know, that's all part of the process, that, you know, we may be the ones who make employees disgruntled when we don't acknowledge them, when we don't do things I think we should be doing as managers.
Well, Connie, I agree. I think the way the questions posed forced us into that as we started making the discussion. I didn't realize, but you're right. Basically, when it comes to the responsibility, my mind, I just can't get out of having a good employee becoming disgruntled and then having to go back and wonder, what the hell did we do wrong? So I think that's the why, again, we guys, we learn things as we go. When we first started the dialogue, I was open to, okay, let's see what happens dealing with disgruntled employees. But the word responsibility, which was in the back of our head, is actually saying, wait a second, Gangi, it's not about, you know, the employees that are already disgruntled. It's really about the employees that aren't, that become disgruntled, because that's where the responsibility is. So I have another thing to add on that. So guys, believe it or not, guys, as management, you're going to find some people that just shine bright, and it's not, you don't see them every day. I mean, these really are the unique. I don't want to generalize this, because there are some people that they take the initiative. They step up front. They want to be challenged. They're just go-getters. It's just who they are. High achievers. You know, they have high achieving habits. It's just who they are. And then what happens here is we need to recognize those people immediately and handle them with care. 100% care. Don't burn them out. Don't use them like to the point where they're overwhelmed and they don't even have a chance to grow, because you're overwhelming them with tedious work for the sake of work. Because what I've realized here is, if you have that employee that constantly likes to stand out, and then that one day where there's a new opportunity that you know is a phenomenal opportunity, and that employee decides, well, I'm not going to stand out today. Well, what happened? You're an employee that used to love to stand out and face challenges. And then you know what the scary thing is that employee that loves to do that all of a sudden becomes so overwhelmed with work that they're not even learning anymore. It's now, I just want to get it done. So it's not even about the process, guys. We burned them out. The key about having those star employees, the reward comes from the process of the work. It really does. It's not so much the outcome of the work, but the process, the journey, because that's where you're going to learn. So when you start getting people that have that light, right, Connie, and all of a sudden they start getting disenfranchised during the process where most of the important part of the journey is, and that really does connect with those high-level employees, because, again, they're looking to learn. They step right into the process. They absorb it. They love it. But now all of a sudden, they don't come out. They don't want to get involved in the process. They're now just disenfranchised. And then you go back and look, and the person literally is going to tell you, I don't even have time to learn anything. I'm just so overwhelmed with work that has no more value, that at the end of the day is, I just want to get it done just to get it done. I'm not here to enjoy it anymore. You know, and guys, I learned something new today to add on top of that. When you start overwhelming people at work just for the sake of work, the tediousness of it all, and just, you know, being so inconsistent with what you give them that they don't even have a way to plan their day, because at any moment they could be surprised. All that stuff's in the back of their mind. So even if they do step into a process that they start to enjoy, they never fully do, because they don't know if at any moment you're going to pop up with another surprise that's just going to pull them back into that same bogus routine of tedious work with no value. I mean, I think, to me, Connie, that we do, you know, that's correct, right? I mean, I see.
Yeah. I mean, if we start being the reason why people lose motivation, right? Like, I'm no longer motivated. I'm no longer excited about my job. I no longer see the good, because this place just dumps, and they have no interest in my growth. They have no interest in, you know, things that I might want to develop, the skills I might want to develop, or those areas of the facility or of our operation that I'm particularly interested in. And I get it, you know, some facilities have rotations, so you get rotated through different spots. You don't necessarily get to choose, and some places have seniority, and there's all these things in place. But I feel like, you know, we kind of touched on this before, like, are there opportunities where, you know, the staff can go and do things that they actually would like to do? Or are there opportunities for them to learn more about whatever those things? I mean, you talked about the gang unit before, you know, and being able to go to training and learn stuff and actually come back and apply it. Like, do we foster an environment where we can support employees learning and growing and doing some of the things that they are genuinely interested in, that they may just excel in if we give them the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I have something else I want to add, Connie, that I think is just kind of a new thought that we never presented before. As we're having this discussion, this is where we go to. The front line, or those that are directly beneath you, whatever it is, the result of a directive, wherever the directive's going, they're not a trial and error for you, because, even if you come up with a good idea, and you go ahead and push it, and let's say it doesn't work, and then you try another one and another one and another one and hope to find that something works. Oh, you understand the what that does to them, the ones at the bottom, going through all the tedious work to find out that everything they didn't work. So when someone goes like this, hey, but you got to admit, this idea is great. This idea is going to move us forward. And then you finally get someone that says, yeah, but your 7th idea today. Like, even if this is the best idea, I don't have the energy to commit to it because I've already tried. And the sad thing is, guys, is that each trial and error, you got to realize something. The people that are doing that groundwork, and let's say the end result of your idea doesn't work, look what that does to the people who, maybe you get to mark off on your sheet, well, that didn't work. But the people that just spent their time, committed what they thought was valuable work, has literally just been told, nope, that doesn't work. Let's try this again. So, I mean, just that constant shift, and then just, oh, I'll just try something else. And then you're constantly being overwhelmed with these new things. I'm telling you something, the person that's directly receiving it, where's the energy? How do they find it? We're not the, I know we have to try things sometimes and, see if it works and see if it doesn't work. But most of the time what happens here, guys, is that we implement something too soon. And then while we're doing it, while we're in the process of doing it, is when someone above says, oh, that's not going to even work, even though the bottom line has been trying to make it work. So we haven't even went back and asked them, hey, how's this going? No, you're not even doing that. You already made the shift already. So you don't even know if they're making progress, or if they aren't, we still haven't gotten any input from them. So number 2 is better. The reason why we're at number 7 for today is because no one went down to the people that were doing it the first time and asked them, hey, why is this working, or why isn't this working? Instead, it's just like, nope, right in the middle of when they're doing it. Nope, got to try another idea. And think about the inconsistency, at the bottom line when they're realizing like, hey, you know what, got another plan, but wait, there's something else is always going to come up. And now what do, Connie? They stop embracing the ideas that are going to work. Because at that point, it's not about moving forward. It's about, man, it's another job to do. It's just, so here's the funny thing, guys. The more you overwork these frontline people, the more you start overwhelming them with tedious work because you're using them to trial and error. When you finally have that good idea, they're not going to be moved by it. They're going to be too beaten to be moved by it. They're going to be like, oh, this won't last. And they'll just be frustrated. Connie, I'm sure you have been on the other end of, these wild ideas and they don't work. And instead of them even talking to you in the middle of maybe you making your best attempt to make it work, try this idea. Come on. Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, we've got to be able to take a pause, right? Like, I think some people are so busy wanting to give orders, right, that they don't see what they don't see the result of the orders that they give. Neither do they care. I don't, and that's general. That's not everybody. I'm just saying that generally, there are some people who are more concerned with giving the orders than they are with the actual outcome or with, the actual impact. So like maybe, I guess that's just saying there are some people who just like the power, right? And they aren't necessarily focused on the outcome or focused on the impact to the workforce. And, it's really unfortunate because you do have those people who are literally just worker bees, right? Like I feel like most of our frontline officers and civilians, they're the worker bees. They're the ones who we get here's the agenda. We go back to the facilities. we give to the staff. This is what we need to accomplish this week. And the staff do their best, I think, to just work. Let's just make this happen. This is what we were assigned to get done. And I think sometimes you have people who are on the outside who have no idea, you know, what will work, right? Like, so it's easier for me to just give you more orders because I have no appreciation for what you had to do in order to accomplish this to begin with. And I think the more that we have that naysayer that's like, you are doing blah, 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 blah. Like, I think that voice can actually be the voice that makes it to the people who need to hear it, right? Like, as much as it could be annoying and, you know, no one necessarily wants to deal with the naysayer or the attitude of the naysayer or the disgruntled person, like, it's also that person given, because as a manager, I got a disgruntled employee about something, and it's about something that's like real. I'm taking that back to my central office to be like, hey, listen, there's a situation brewing and you guys haven't done anything to address it, right? And if it's my responsibility, you haven't empowered me to do it, right? So there's a couple of ways that disgruntled person's voice allows us to progress, to move forward. And I think there's got to be a respect for that yes, they're kind of annoying. And sometimes some of the things that they say can be hurtful. It could be offensive. Maybe the delivery isn't great. You know, there's all that stuff, right? But I think there's also a way that person allows us to check the people who are making most of the decisions, including ourselves. What did I do to get us here? How did I not appreciate the work that they were already doing before I gave that next order or that next directive? And I don't think we take enough time to really check ourselves and to bring that stuff up the chain of command.
Well, you mentioned something about growth. And I want to compliment something with that, because when you start overwhelming that front line, I gotta take that later, sorry. When you start overwhelming that front line, when you start kind of just slamming them down with work, you're not giving them the freedom to kind of think of things that are new, to move things forward, because they get so busy with the outcome of something that they're not really understanding the process and how things can be better. Because I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm not going to say change, I'm going to start choosing different words to embrace movement. So when we evolve, it does come from the foundation, from the front line. The biggest part of us moving forward is what is given to us specifically from the front line, those that operate specifically, because they're the ones that are going to know, you know, specifically what's needed to move things forward. Sure, management has the generalized idea, the bigger approach, but the magic really does happen when it all gets put together from that front line. So now if you start overwhelming them and they're just going through the process just to go through the process, they're not going to pick up on anything that could be innovative. And therefore, they're not going to be able to pass anything up because, one, they're not catching it themselves because they don't have the time to really see, you know, the magic behind what's being done. And worse, and this is probably worse of it all, they don't care anymore because they're just getting through the moment. They don't care. And they figured, hell, you told me 20 no's already. Why am I even going to bother? You're just going to tell me another one. So, you know, now you literally, when we talked about the word responsibility with those disgruntled employees, if you don't really identify it, especially if it's an employee that wanted to grow, but now is shifted into that, you know, that disgruntled mindset, there's a good chance that you just kind of keep your agency stagnant. You know, you don't move. And I want to just revisit something real quick. I know we have a lot of aha moments where it just comes to us and we figure, oh, staff is going to love it. Staff is going to love it. And then it turns out that you've had like 20 million aha moments and staff no real, it's not, they don't love it no more. It's just aha moments piled upon aha moments piled upon aha moments. So that aha moment lost its significance. It's no longer an aha moment. It's now the routine of this person just giving us work for the sake of giving us work. Yeah, I think this was a good dialogue. I think the shift of responsibility really made us look at cultivating or what you're doing not to cultivate an employee who's already in that light. Because again, when it comes to responsibility, the first thing I thought about, Connie, was I have someone that's good. What did I just do now to destroy it? And I think we just kind of stayed into that journey. Hey, Connie, have anything you'd like to say in closing?
I would just like to say all employees add value to the environment, whether we like it or not. And, I think there's always going to be times where, someone says something that questions our sensibilities, or it questions our way of thinking, or it questions our beliefs, our value systems. Like it happens, right? And it doesn't make that person's perspective wrong. Yes, there are times where people are just kind of just talking to talk, and you can kind of put that where that goes, right? But I think from a management perspective, when you have employees who are disgruntled, we have a responsibility, one, to hear them out, and two, if there's any way that we can find a solution to help support or move that employee through the next phase of the process, because sometimes they got to be able to accept maybe this is just a reality, right? And this thing is not going to change. But how do we help them through this process and help them to grow? And if in fact there's something that we have done wrong, how do we acknowledge our wrongdoing or our misstep or the mistake we made, and be able to fix it so that the employees don't continue to feel the pain that they're feeling and they don't remain disgruntled?
Yeah, I love that. And I think how we see them, like Connie said, I mean, do they have a voice to us? Do they value to us? It's not so much, I mean, yes, they have to feel they have value. And yes, they have to feel they have a voice. But you yourself as manager have to also know that they have value. You can't fake that. Like, you can't fake your feelings of value about them. I mean, they're going to figure that out. So you yourself, if you're going to push that they have value, then your behaviors, actions, your beliefs, and everything that makes you as a manager or as a leader has to represent that, has to reflect that. And also, if you have these star employees, are you challenging them? Are you giving them a chance to learn in the process of, giving them the work that they have to do, and by the way, it's not work for the sake of work for these star employees. This is work for the sake of growth. That's their reward, guys. And those are the people you want to move up, those that are moving up for growth. So are we just giving them work to work, or is this work actually going to have value in growing them and helping them reach that next level, which is something that they really want to do? So I think that was a great dialogue. And as always, guys, the show is tiered. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. Stay safe.